In today's video, I'm going to give some information regarding what are exceptions and the different types. So basically, to start with, what is an exception? An exception is an event which occurs when the execution of program takes place and then there is some sort of error in a method which allows us to create an object and handle it to run off system. So basically what happens is while the program goes through different instructions of the specified code, there might be some sort of error, and that error will allow different types of comments in the output. So for that we have different exceptions like null reference exception, index out of range exception, stack overflow exception, and many more, which I will be explaining it to you guys in this video. So basically, what is a null reference exception? According to me, null reference exception is something when I try to have an access to a member which is not actually the value of that particular member will be null. So I will get null reference exception. For the index out of range exception, what happens is, while in index out of range exception, what happens is whenever I will call an array or something like which is not in the index, like if I have a range, like not a range but a list called list from 0 to 9, and if I call index 11, it will give me index out of range exception. Now I would like to talk about stack overflow exception. What happens in stack overflow exception is if I've created, for instance, one if else loop, and if I keep on adding like more if and else loop in that particular the main if else one, then it will be an it will totally be over full with if else loops, and then it will give me an exception of stack overflow exception. Then for out of memory exception, what happens is when there is not sufficient memory in the program, not in the program but what happens in out of memory exception is what happens in out of memory exception is when I will try running the program, it will give me the output, but when there is not like enough memory to continue the execution of the program, then it will show me the out of memory exception. The next exception is invalid cast exception. So in this exception, what happens is, so this basically happens when I try to cast one reference type to another reference type which is not really compatible in that particular program code, then it will send me invalid cast exception. Then the other one is divide by zero exception. This is the most easiest one. So what happens in this one is if I divide something by 0, it will give me divide by 0 exception. And the next one is the argument exception. So this particular exception happens when we have provided two different more two or more than two exceptions in a program, and if if any one of them are not true, then it will show me argument exception. And then I would like to talk about argument out of range exception. So in this exception, what happens is um, it basically happens when I I declare a list or something like that, and I just try to call something which is not in that particular list, then it will be like the value of an argument is outside the allowable range of values. So in the next one is system exception. So it's like basically the exception with the base class for the system exceptions namespace. And I would like to show an example, like a working code, which will show all type of exceptions. So let me show you my code. So in this one, what I have done is I have defined different variables over here, and I've defined different sort of like exceptions. And when I will be running this whole code, what output I will get is let me just first show you the whole code, then I think you will get a better idea about it, what I'm talking about. Yep. And when I try to run this code over here, it shows me the errors like this: index out of range exception, null reference exception, index out of range exception again over here, then out of memory exception, and stuff like that. So I think you will get a better idea about what I'm talking about via this video. And if you guys have any sort of question, you can ask me anytime in the comment box. And yep, and thanks for watching my video.